I'm Brianna Bosch and I own Blossom and Branch Farm. As a fifth-generation farmer, I've learned a lot about different methods and techniques in farming and gardening, and I'm here to share with you the ones that we found to work the best. Welcome to the farm. Hey everyone, it's Bree here from Blossom and Branch Farm. Just wanted to come at you today to talk about plugs. So it's the time of year where we're starting to get planting here at the farm, and there are a couple ways that we plant things. So one is plugs. We try to minimize how many plugs we're doing just because they do tend to be a little bit less environmentally friendly when it comes to shipping. They do use a lot of cardboard and styrofoam in the shipping process, so we try to start as much as we can from seeds, but occasionally there are things that we will buy via plug, like leucanthus. So plug trays come in various sizes, anywhere from a 72 to a 216, and that just tells you how many plants are in that tray. Now, when we're planting them out, there are a few tricks that we like to use to make sure that they're going to do really well and that they're going to be quick and easy to plant. So we're going to talk about those things today. So the first thing that I always like to do when it comes to planting plugs is to use what's called root shield. So this is a product, it's basically a soil microbe that's going to help keep your plugs from getting any kind of weird fungus like Pythium, Phytophthora, Fusarium wilt. So these are things that particularly affect leucanthus, but also any plugs that you're getting in. It's just always good to treat them with a little dip. So we're just going to add a little bit of this to our water, and we're also going to use this root stimulator. I like to use this very lightly, just a little bit of this into the water. This is by Fertilome, but really any root stimulator will work. It helps just get those roots going. So what we do is we're going to mix up a little batch of this with a little bit of the root shield, a little bit of root stimulator, and we're going to dip our plugs into that as we plant. So of course you're always going to want to make sure that you follow the labels for all of these things, so make sure you're reading the label to see how much you're going to add of this root shield. And we're going to add a splash of our root stimulator. It does not take much of these ingredients for them to be effective. We're going to add some water to this and we're going to use it as a root dip. The tool that you're going to find the most helpful in planting plugs is a dibbler. So instead of using a big trowel, which tends to be a lot of work on the wrist and also makes a bigger hole than you need, a dibbler can make a hole that is specifically the size of the plug. So all you have to do is just jam it straight into the ground and you have your hole. So instead of digging around, especially if you're planting into landscape fabric, trowel can sometimes be too big. I do like to moisten the soil a little bit before I use this dibbler, not to soaking, just to damp, because it helps hold the shape of the dibbler. All right, so once our ground is a little bit damp, again, not overly moist, but you can see how the dibble really holds its shape, so we can just super easily pop our plugs right into these little holes made by our dibbler. What I like to do is I like to grab plugs one at a time, dip them into our solution, and then pop them right in. Now, if your plugs have any kind of root bound situation going on, so for example, you can see this plug actually has a little bit of circling roots. So what I would like to do there is give it a dip into our solution and then just really gently pull apart the roots before I pop it into its hole. Getting the plugs out of trays can actually be one of the hardest parts of using plugs. Because these holes are so small, they're really hard to get out without just grabbing and pulling. And you don't want to grab and pull, especially on the stem of a plant or a plug, because that can really damage the plant itself. So instead, what we do with these is we just turn them upside down and we give them a few slaps. And the plugs just pop out. Now this works really well with leucanthus, but for things that maybe are a little bit taller or have a longer stem like snapdragons, you'd want to be a little bit more careful because those stems can break using this method. So do it a little bit closer to the ground so they don't have as far to fall. I I hope this video helped you feel more confident when it comes to planting your plugs. Again, the things that we really like to do are the dip to make sure we try to get those roots as strong as possible when we're planting them in with the root stimulator and also with that biological fungicide. We also like to use our dibbler to make sure we get the perfect size hole in the ground and to speed up our planting. And then we also like to loosen up any root bound seedlings, give them a little bit of shade and a good water when you're done.